All right. I can see you and the whole bus in this shot.
Yeah, but can you hear me? It's a little far.
So now I'll come in.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome to the Topsy-Turvy Bus. My name is Jonathan, and this is instructional video number 1 of how the vegetable oil system works on board the Teva Topsy-Turvy Bus. Come on. So these are some friends, and this is our bus. And on board the Teva Topsy-Turvy Bus, we use a waste vegetable oil system, and we use a centrifuge in order to process the oil. No filters, and I'm going to take you through step by step how it works. So we start in the back of the bus. In order to collect the oil, we have two systems. We have a 12-volt pump that we can suck the fuel out, and you can take a look at that. We have a screen on the end of the pump, which if you can see the screen at the end of that takes out maybe to 1,000 microns. And then we also have a hand crank as a backup, a hand crank pump as a backup. Now this takes the fuel and brings it into a storage tank below, which is a 50-gallon tank for holding the waste vegetable oil. Now this is unfiltered, just screened down to like 1,000 microns, like basically window screen, and that's heated off of coolant from the engine. We have a heat exchanger in the tank with coolant from the engine. So then from this tank we pump through a canister, another screen filter, and this time it's screening down to 300 microns. Also still not really a filter at all. This is just a pre-screen in order to protect the pump. Anything larger than this could potentially damage the pump or potentially damage the centrifuge. So we have two options for pumping. We have redundancies built into the system. We have a 110-volt pump and motor down here. Difficult to see because of the light. And then we also have a 12-volt pump, which used to go right here, but as you can see, it's gone because I blew that pump out. So that's why we have redundancies built into the system. So we can pump either with 110 volts off of the generator on board, or we can use the 12-volt system, which uses the battery from the engine. So basically we're pumping from this tank, and we are going into the intermediate processing tank. Now this is a 20-gallon processing tank, and what we do is batch processing. So we can process 20 gallons at a time using the centrifuge. And we have a sight tube on the side of the tank, which tells us how full the tank is, and as you can see right now, the tank is about half full. So I want to show you how the centrifuge works. And this is the centrifuge. I bought it at a company called Dieselcraft, and you can find information at their website. They're a very good company. And the guy there, his name is John. He's a really nice guy. And it's basically a waste oil centrifuge. And I can turn on the pump. And basically right now we're pumping oil from this tank up through here and then back into the tank. So it's a loop. And then I can open this valve here, and now I'm sending fuel into the centrifuge. And I can slowly close this valve and increase the pressure of oil going to the centrifuge. And the oil is really cold right now, but eventually the centrifuge will start to spin. Now you want to operate at about 80 pounds of pressure, and eventually the centrifuge can spin up to 8,000 RPMs. Now for demonstration purposes, I'm going to release that because I've already centrifuged this oil. And I'm going to show you now how I would run that for about 2 hours, typically, for a 20-gallon batch. You know, I do a visual inspection. So this is what the oil looks like. This is potentially what waste vegetable oil looks like when we pick it up at a restaurant. And after a visual inspection, I get oil that looks like this. This is cleaned centrifuged oil after about 2 hours in the centrifuge. And I just do a visual inspection. I'm able to take a sample of the oil sometimes. Right there. And I can take a sample of the oil, you know, at any time and take a look at it. So after I've decided that the oil is clean enough, I want to send it down to the lower tank. So in order to do that, I turn the pump back on, and this time I open this valve right here. I shut this valve here, and now I am pumping oil from the processing tank down to the lower tank, and we have a 65-gallon lower tank underneath. In between the lower tank and the engine, we have an inline heated, you know, standard fuel filter that needs to be changed, depending on the cleanliness of the oil, about every 500 miles. And we have heated fuel lines all throughout the system, and heat exchangers in all the tanks to keep everything warm. And that is a basic rough explanation of the vegetable oil processing system on the Topsy-Turvy Bus.
Thanks, Jonathan.